That's right. Time once again for the Kaufman Corner podcast with you as always, David Lesky, Soren Petro, as we talk about pretty good week. I think we're satisfied. I think we get greedy as Royals fans. Let's remember they did just have a winning homestand after a winning road trip. We'll talk about Cole Ragans going to the IL. What does that mean? Stephen Kolek, how good is he? Can he do the job replacing Cole Ragans, at least for a little while? Carlos Estevez, there's a right rotator cuff strain for Carlos Estevez. What does that mean for the team now and long-term? How should they handle this? Salvador Perez, he's batting cleanup. That's the worst spot in the lineup. Number 4 overall this year. Does he need to be moved? What Bobby Witt has done so far? We're looking at vintage MVP Bobby Witt inside the park home run on Saturday. How should we feel about this 4-3 homestand? And then we're looking ahead to the White Sox and Cardinals. What do we expect from this club as they head out on the road? We talk about it right here, right now on the Kaufman Corner podcast.
You're listening to the Kaufman Corner podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Royals, breaking down the Royals like no one else can. Kaufman Corner is hosted by David Lesky and Soren Petro. David Lesky is an accomplished author and the publisher of the Inside the Crown Royals baseball newsletter. Soren is the award-winning afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. Kaufman Corner is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Now, here are your hosts, David Lesky and Soren Petro.
All right, thank you very much, Curtis. We do appreciate it. Let's start with the bad news, David. Let's start with the good news. First of all, happy belated Mother's Day as we are coming to everybody here on a Monday because you and your mom went to the ball game. First of all, can I just say how awesome that is that your mom loves baseball and that Mother's Day meant a primetime. The Royals didn't deliver a primetime performance, but a primetime baseball game on Mother's Day. That's awesome. I hope you guys had a great time.
We did, yeah. I mean, she's kind of the reason that I'm as obsessed with baseball as I am, which is sorry, guys. Blame her. It's not my fault. I didn't do it. Yeah, you can also hear allergies have hit me today, which is great. But it's
you sit outside for 4 hours. That's what happened.
Well, yeah. We had the windows open all day yesterday too, and it was a bad idea, but it was worth it. But yeah, no, it was. We had a great time. We go to a lot of games together, so we've had to disrupt the program and this podcast for our games together. Yeah. So, it's all right. I don't apologize for it.
Yeah, no, nor should you. And I think it's fantastic. So that's great. We're happy to move out of the way and family first, man. Health and family first. So
always.
That's what matters. So coming to you a little bit late, but happy to do it. Let's talk about the health part of the equation for the Kansas City Royals. Cole Ragans to the IL, left elbow impingement, valgus extension overload, which is now being called pitcher's elbow. I guess has always been called pitcher's elbow, but it wasn't what we were talking about early on. But now they've dubbed it pitcher's elbow. Retroactive to May 7th, he goes on the IL. Looking at the end of May is the optimistic approach. What does this mean for the Royals right now? What does it mean, big picture, and how fearful are we that this is just the beginning of what could be a much worse announcement?
Well, so the valgus extension overload is in the triceps, not the forearm, which is really good. If you remember, and the only reason I remember is because I made a terrible typo when this happened. But in 2014, Yordano Ventura had the same thing and missed one start. They didn't put him on the IL, the DL then, but he missed one start, came back, and he was really good the rest of the season. So I believe Amir Garrett had it also, but he was not good before that either. So it's hard to say if he would have been better or not. But the reason I remember it so well is because I wrote Vargas extension overload because my brain typed Vargas as, and I missed it for 2 days. It was up on the Pine Tar Press, the old Pine Tar Press website for 2 full days before I realized it. But it sounds like this is something that is not that big of a deal for pitchers. It's kind of like, well, tennis elbow, I think,
right,
in that you recover from it and you're generally fine. It doesn't have anything to do with the ligaments, from what I understand, which is really important. And Cole Ragans has had 2 Tommy Johns. They're a little bit different than other pitchers who've had 2 because they were back to back, which is not the same as blowing it out, pitching, blowing it out again. So I think that's worth noting, the discrepancy there. But with a guy who has had injury issues, I mean, he did have the 2 Tommy Johns early in his career. He had back issues, he had shoulder issues, he had leg issues. Actually, I may be wrong. He may not have had back issues, but he's had a lot of issues. This is not a guy who is a picture of health. And, you never know. I'm glad. I think because of that, that's why they're shutting him down a little bit longer. I think he probably could have just missed a start and then gotten on. But this gives him at least 2 starts. They don't sound worried about it. I don't know if you've gotten that impression too, but it feels like, hey, he'll be back. Maybe he'll go on a rehab start. I can see that just because Why not? And we'll get to Stephen Kolek, but if he's pitching well, that helps obviously give them a little more cover. But I mean, given his health issues, I think you do have to be concerned because this is not the first, second, or third issue he's had.
Well, I think there's concern because he wasn't exactly lighting the world up. Now we've detailed how he was so home and road, like home, phenomenal, road, terrible. And, that is probably an anomaly, probably just, but he has been really, really bad when he's been bad and really, really good when he's been good. I think the really, really good when he's been good gives me optimism that this is something that he's in tune to his body. He's listening to it. And when he gets something that pops up like this, he hears it immediately and says, okay, let's adjust, so I'm optimistic that he is catching this. Like it is total precaution, right? That like a guy like, whatever, Greg Maddux in the midst of his career would have been like, let's push through this. This is just fatigue and I need to get it done. But with the surgeries and the complications with Cole Ragans, you need to be more precautious. You need to, and the when you snap it off the way he does, when you throw the velocity he does, you're much more susceptible to injuries. So my hope is that this is an abundance of caution. And I felt like watching him interact, the fact that he's with the team right now, the fact that he's interacting with the guys, he's laughing and joking and made me feel better. Right. Mm-hmm. That's what, like, just watching him, he did not feel like a guy who feels like, oh my God, my career is in jeopardy, which is the way you would feel if you were thinking that this is like, you're like, okay, that's what they're calling it, but I know this does not feel right. He did not look like a guy who's like, my career might be over. I might be reading too much into that. I certainly am wanting to be optimistic in this. And so, we will see. Look, I'm a guy who panicked every time Zach Greinke twisted on the mound, so
which was every pitch.
He drove. I mean, I was every outing. I thought, oh my God, what is that? Is that the back? Oh my God, is that the hamstring? Is that whatever it was? And so I am a chronic worrier. But so I'm going to bring this up. Let's rewind. We discussed the idea that the Boston Red Sox wanted Cole Ragans in a deal for Brendan Donovan. And I'm not saying Brendan Donovan would be the cure for all their ills.
You mean Jarren Duran?
Or for Jarren Duran, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Brendan Donovan was prospects they wanted from the Mets and what have you. But for Jarren Duran. And we said at that time, and I know everybody locally was, well, you can't do that. We don't want to give up Cole Ragans. Cole Ragans is an ace. And I said, look, I think we even had the question, would you move Cole Ragans? And I said, yes, if I would get the outfielder and something, right? Like, I do believe that he brings more to the equation than just, your standard I don't. If they're viewing him as the guy who only threw 2 starts at the end of last year, no. Right? If they're viewing him as he's now cleared, he threw at the end of last year, and so this is a healthy ace, then yeah, I'm all ears because I said at the time he's a ticking time bomb. And
well, every pitcher is, to be fair.
They are, but him more so.
But a guy who's been hurt, you're right. The guy who's been hurt more is even more of a ticking time bomb.
I don't mean to throw him under the bus for getting, a comeback or hitting him on the hand, but it's always something.
Yeah.
Him, right. It's always something. And so I'll ask you, did they miss the opportunity to cash in and get more, get value for him in this offseason? As
of right now, the answer is yes, because hindsight is 2020.
And because he's on the IL now.
And right. That's
if he misses 1 start or 2 and he comes back throwing peas, we'll say no.
Who cares? Yeah. The issue that I have is I still think he's worth more than Jarren Duran. Jarren Duran has had a terrible start to the season. He is hitting 194, 253, 324. So if we're going to use all the data we have today, we have to include Jarren Duran's numbers today. And the Red Sox, from what I understood, and I don't know if you heard something different, but from what I understood, the Red Sox were not willing to do more than Duran for Ragans. It might have been a throw-in. That's not, who cares? Which sometimes those lottery tickets do become something. So you don't want to turn that down, but I think the Royals would have done it if it was Jarren Duran and something real for Cole Ragans. From what I understand, the Red Sox were never going to do that. And so knowing what we know now, Cole Ragans for Jarren Duran, Jarren Duran would be the worst outfielder on the Royals. The Royals outfield, and I should look this up. I don't remember coming into today. This changes every day, obviously, but the Royals outfield, which was a problem last year, has the 11th best weighted runs created plus in baseball this year. Jarren Duran's at 57. He would be the Royals' worst outfielder. So I think when you look at it from that lens, no, they didn't miss. When you look at it from Cole Ragans' health and you wonder, is he ever going to have a season like 2024 again? Or even is he ever going to look like he did at times in 2025? And the answer to that question is probably yes, because he's looked like that sometimes this year. But if he doesn't have another year like 2024, every year you get farther and farther away is another year that you can't cite that as who he is. And you can't get maximum value. And so I think that there is a chance that the Royals missed the opportunity, maybe not the Ragans for Duran trade, but trading Ragans in general, with coming off the high of those last, 14 innings or whatever it was, coming off just a season removed from his 4th place Cy Young finish, all of that. Maybe they missed that opportunity there.
Yeah, I think this should be a reminder. Should he come back and be healthy the rest of the year? That's the thing. The better he pitches, the longer he pitches, the more you don't want to move him.
Right. It's this weird. You struggle because you're right. As he gets better, you want to move him less, but as he gets better, he's probably more valuable. And
it's like, you talk to guys. My buddy's a stockbroker, and he's like, when the market is down, everybody wants to sell, and that's when you should buy. When the market is up, nobody wants to sell, and that's when you need to move. Buy low, sell high, and that's where I think the Royals. I'm curious if they are really fully ready to embrace the math, and I'll give Jeff Passan some credit, talking to Jeff on the radio show. And he said, I pointed out that the Brewers flip guys, and he goes, yeah, they flip them going into their last year. They get all the value they can while they can control them for a set price. And then they flip them going into the last year. And I think that is a good plan to have, big picture wise, but the Royals didn't move Chris Bubich, right?
No.
Who also was hurt. That's one of the problems there last year. It'll be interesting to see if the Royals do adopt that, or if they are too in love with their own guys that we're going to do kind of the math, but kind of, who we like, right? So I do think it is going to be, I do think it's going to be interesting to see how they deal with it. What do you think his career is going to be ultimately? When Cole Ragans is done throwing a baseball, what does his career look like as he looks back?
I mean, I don't know of a comp. Well, actually, I do know of a comp. I think that if you look back, let me just ask you. Actually, I'm going to give you some numbers.
Okay.
And if he ends up with let's call it 68 wins and a 3.95 career ERA, and I don't know, this is probably a low strikeout rate, but let's do it a little bit differently, like a 25% strikeout rate. Would you be okay with that? Would that be a good career for a guy?
How many wins?
68.
That's interesting, because my answer to my own question is I don't know, and I don't care, because he wouldn't be on my team.
Well, I'll tell you who I gave you. I gave you
Okay.
Danny Duffy's career stats.
Okay.
So, and I think the 3.95 ERA is probably a little bit high. Well, actually, I don't know. It's higher. He would have to, his career ERA would have to go up to get to 3.95, because I believe he's at, what is he at? 3.76 right now. But he's got 22 wins and 419 innings. Danny Duffy ended up with 68 wins in just under 1,200 innings. I mean, if Cole Ragans gave you 800 more innings in his career, would you be surprised?
800 more innings?
800 more innings for him,
Yeah,
is 5 to 7 seasons.
To me, like, he is a ticking time bomb. He is. He is a commodity, and I know you got him, and I know you want an ace, but, like, do you believe you can develop pitching? I think 2 years ago it would have been really tough to say that if you're the Royals, like, yeah, we can develop pitching. Asa Lacy's blowing up, and, there's nothing in the system. Now that Brian Bridges is in place, and you're seeing David Shields and Kendry Churio coming along, a couple other guys showing some progress, down the low minors, I feel more confident as an organization that we can develop pitching if I'm JJ Piccolo. And so I see Cole Ragans as a guy that I want to be healthy long enough to trade. I really like Cole Ragans. I love the career. I love the toughness. I love the fact that he's still trying to get it done after all these years. But I'm a math-based guy, and the math says the strongest indicator – this is a Jeff Passan line as well. The strongest indicator of future injuries is past history. And the past history is he's hurt all the time. So why, if you can get him healthy long enough to flip him for returns. And listen, at some point, I think the key is at some point you got to be like, what will he bring? Because I also heard that, the Royals had an eye for Wilyer Abreu.
Mm-hmm. And the Red Sox didn't want to do it.
And the Red Sox didn't want to do it. But
but
but I also know that the Royals wouldn't put Cole Ragans in. They were talking Chris Bubich. So if you put Cole Ragans on the table and say, we'll give you Ragans, but it's got to be this guy, what would it have been? I don't know. And so but there are other outfielders out there, and listen, the idea that there's this definitive line in the sand about what you have to get for any player, you have to get what you can get at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, some days a top cornerback is worth 2 first-round picks. That's the Jets trading Sauce Gardner and getting 2 first-round picks. Other days, it's worth a second-round pick. Like, it just depends on what the market will bear. And so I think at some point you need to figure out, and I think the Royals have done this, like, okay, he's worth more to us than what they're willing to give us. But I think, listen, here is end-of-season ERAs throughout his career. Pitching early out of the bullpen and then later as a starter. 495, 347, 314, 467, and right now 484. Okay, 376 is who he is. I mean, your record is you are what your record says you are, and that's what he is right now. Like, and I think the Royals are not treating him. I don't know. I shouldn't say they are not. I fear that the Royals are not treating him the way they probably should, because of their want for him to be an ace.
I agree with that. I will say, to their credit, they weren't not talking about him. It wasn't like, oh, you call me about Cole Ragans, the answer is no. The answer is a lot. And I think there's a difference, because I think previous regimes would have said, we can't trade this guy. He is not available. It doesn't matter what you offer. No. They talked about him. There were legitimate conversations that just didn't happen. And I think that people don't. The business of baseball is different than a lot of other sports, I think, in some ways, in that there are so many conversations. Maybe that's not fair. Maybe it's the same in other sports too. But I feel like there are so many conversations that just don't quite get to the finish line. And I do think that there's a big difference between we won't talk about him and we won't trade him unless we get what we want. And they will at least talk about it, which I think is important. Now, with the struggles this year, with the injuries again, it might be tough. They might have a tough time getting what they wanted before the season, and they might have to come back or say it's not worth it. But they are. I will give them credit for at least talking about him and being willing to move him, just not finding the deal they wanted.
Yeah, but again, they're in the get it right business, and
yes,
when you had an opportunity, you had people calling. You should have taken a look and seen, okay, is there some place where, we can move him and get value that's more dependable? I just think that's the thing that they're going to have to think about as they move forward. All right. We'll talk about Stephen Kolek. He's going to be the guy that's going to slide into that spot in the rotation. We'll do it after you hear from our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Concrete season is in full swing and asphalt paving is revving up. So right now is the time to get your property on the schedule with Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Whether you need new concrete work, a parking lot repaved, crack filling, seal coating, or full asphalt installation, their experienced crews handle it all right here in Kansas City. Don't wait until the rush hits. Call today for a free bid and secure your spot before the calendar fills up. Get the process started right now at GannAsphalt.com. That's GannAsphalt.com. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lots. Italian Delight was the first restaurant to bring true New York-style pizza to Kansas City almost 50 years ago. They sell whole pies or pizza by the slice, or enjoy their classic strombolis, calzones, and sausage rolls. Sandwich lovers, check out their lineup of hot and cold subs, the combo, the meatball, or the Philly cheesesteak, just to name a few. And don't forget the pasta. Their famous lasagna and classic chicken Alfredo always hit the spot. And if you're hungry for lunch, check out their daily lunch specials, starting at under $10. Italian Delight can even cater your next work function or party. Dine-in, carry-out, or delivery, it's Italian Delight. Located just 3 minutes east of Kansas Speedway at 8145 State Ave in KCK. Check out the menu and order online at ItalianDelightKS.com. Kansas City's own Italian Delight. All right, Stephen Kolek slots in. There's all this optimism, and I agree. Stephen Kolek's been great. 6 starts for the Royals, 6 quality starts. But he is 29 years old. Like, that's the part there's kind of like in a lot of people's minds, like, oh, we got this young stud that's going to be in a Royals uniform forever. Like, he's 29 and he has only made the 6 starts, which has me worried. Like, okay, are we just seeing opponents not take him serious and they're about ready to lock in and show us why he has not been able to get to the big leagues until he was 28 years old, really?
Yeah. I mean, part of the issue for Kolek is he was one of those guys who I think was hurt by 2020 quite a bit. There are a lot of minor leaguers who really, I think their ETA got pushed back a year or two because of not having that minor league season. Now, that said, the Royals had he was a 2018 draft pick. The Royals had a lot of guys who didn't have their ETAs pushed back. So he could have powered through it. But so I do think that hurt him a little bit. But I think what we're seeing with Kolek is he is a perfectly acceptable back of the rotation starter. But because of his ability to throw strikes and get ground balls with a very good defensive infield most days, when you've got Garcia, Witt, and Massey, third, short, and second, you feel pretty good about that defensive infield. And Nick Lofton too. Jonathan India being out helps quite a bit actually there. Yeah. But I think what he brings to the table allows him to give you quality starts. Now, I don't think we're going to see the 191 ERA we saw from him last year in the 5 starts. I think what he gave on whatever day it was he pitched, Monday to whatever day it was, when he gave up the 3 runs over 6 innings, I think you feel good about that every single time. And he's not a guy who I think is going to get blown up very often, I guess is what I'm getting at. He's also not a guy who's going to dominate very often. He doesn't strike guys out. But he throws strikes. He gets ground balls. He can give you some innings. That's a really valuable pitcher. I do want to caution, like you said, he's not a number 2 starter. He's not a number 3 starter. Maybe he's a 4. But there's a lot of value in that.
He's much more Noah Cameron than he is Cole Ragans.
Yes.
Right? Like yes. As far as what you're dealing with, he's well below a strikeout per inning. He is almost 3-1 strikeout to walk. That's what I like. I mean, to me, he's in a perfect role. Like you said, like back end of the rotation. Great. Like that's where I like him. Facilitate the game, keep us in the game, and give us a chance to win. Bats, we're going to have to hit tonight because Kolek is not going to go out. We're not winning 1-0. We're going to need to win 4-3, 5-2. We're going to have to put some runs on the board, and that's fine. I don't think that I don't think you're getting to the big leagues yet to solidify a spot in the big leagues at 29 years old because anybody anywhere ever looked at you and said, anchor to our plan.
Right.
I think frankly he's exceeded what the expectation should be for him at this point. And I think I like 6 innings, 3 runs. If I said he will go out at any time you call upon Stephen Kolek to be in your rotation, he will give you exactly 6 innings and he will allow exactly 3 runs. Would you bank it right now?
100%.
Yeah,
100%. Because the quality start stat I think is one that is, I think, overused by some and underused by others, because the reality is if you throw a quality start, your team is in the game, because at the end of 6 innings, you are at worst 3 runs down. It doesn't mean you're going to win, but a quality start, you look at that keeps your team in the game. And Stephen Kolek is never going to be the best starter on the team. So the goal in your 4 and 5 starters outings is to be in the game. And if you take 6 innings and 3 runs every time, you're in every single game he pitches. So yes, absolutely.
If after 6 innings you are down 3-0, you're not out of it. I mean, that's like, I get tired of the people who bitch and moan about the quality start stat. Oh, quality start. I'm like, hey, nobody calls it a great start. They call it a quality start. It is like it's people are like, oh, I hate the quality. I'm like, why? I think it's one of the most accurately defined statistics in all of sports.
We should change it to perfectly fine start, and then people would like it a lot more.
Like pretty good. Start. Yeah. Like what? Put whatever label you want on it, but it is what it is. Nobody is defining it as the defining moment of what determines a Cy Young. It said no one ever. It just is this is a quality start, and I agree. I think it's a fantastic stat, and I think it's appropriately named. So, if that's what he's going to give, okay, so be it. I think that's the way to go about it.
But real quick, I think that because of his repertoire and because of the way he pitches, I think you're more likely to get 6 innings and 1 run from a guy like him than a guy like, let's say, Michael Lorenzen, who doesn't pitch that way. He does walk batters. He does, he'll give up some fly balls. I think that, and that's not to say, I'm not to bash Michael Lorenzen, but I think that if you put a probability on Stephen Kolek giving you 6 innings and 1 run, it would be higher than Michael Lorenzen, even though they probably end up at around the same place, which I feel like the ceiling is a little bit higher because of the way he gets contact and the way he doesn't give up walks, which is nice because you do get 5-start stretches like he had last year, and you do get those. Whereas some other guys, you don't necessarily get that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Carlos Estevez, right rotator cuff. He's been returned from his rehab assignment.
Wait, hang on. Can you say that again? Can you repeat that?
Right rotator cuff strain.
Oh, shocking. I mean, come on.
He throws 88 to 91, and it's a right rotator cuff strain. Are you saying you're not buying it?
I mean, I am buying it. I think he had it all along, or something. I mean, there's no way you're throwing 89 when you typically are 96, 97, 98, and there's nothing wrong. I never bought, it's just typical ramp up. I bought it for a week because he did it last year. But when it never got better and the command suffered, and JJ talked about that quite a bit. He was saying, look, it's not just velocity, it's command, and both were gone earlier. So if he can get one back, he can be successful. If he can get both back, he can be really good. Well, that's typically an injury. And I'm not even bashing the Royals. If some things don't show up on an MRI, some things don't show up on a scan, if Carlos Estevez says, I feel fine, at some point you've got to believe him, because I'm not seeing it on anything. I'm sure they do physicals every year before the season. I mean, every player goes through them. So I don't know I'm not even blaming Carlos Estevez. What I would lie to probably. I mean, he's a competitor, he wants to be out there. It's like you're saying with Cole Ragans. Cole Ragans, and that makes it sound like he's not a competitor. That's a bad way to put it. But some guys are not going to be completely honest because they want to be out there. And some guys are going to be completely honest because they want to be out there for longer and know that missing a start or a month or whatever will help them. But I don't buy that there was never an injury until now. That just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I would agree. The bullpen had a fantastic run there for a while. I mean, have they figured out how to solve the riddle of no Carlos Estevez? I mean, Lucas Erceg is now seemed to have settled into the closer role. Is the setup spot okay for you now, the way the bullpen looks?
Yes and no. I think we talked about it. Estevez was the guy who anchored the bullpen, right? And so to lose that gave them an issue. And we said it at the time. Somebody needs to step in. Somebody needs to anchor that bullpen. And then whoever does, if it's Lucas Erceg, needs to step into that role. Well, last night notwithstanding, Daniel Lynch has stepped into Lucas Erceg's role. And Lucas Erceg has stepped into Carlos Estevez's role. He had a couple bad outings, but I think the fact that they've found that anchor has allowed the bullpen to kind of fall back into pattern. I would like it if they had a righty and a lefty who could be these leverage guys, because Strom and Lynch, they're actually not that similar, but you get the same lefty side. You can't really play the matchups very well. And they haven't found that guy yet. Nick Mears the numbers have been okay, but I mean, we saw it last night. He gave up a home run to Gage Workman. He does hang the slider periodically. Alex Lang hasn't gotten there. These John Schreiber hasn't been good. He went 26 batters between strikeouts, which is it doesn't work in baseball today. It just doesn't. And so they're missing that piece, but the bullpen has gotten better because they had their anchor and then they found the guy to replace the guy who became the anchor, which I think has helped. And now they're pitching much better. I mean, they've had a couple issues the last couple of days, but no bullpen is going to be perfect. I look back to that, the start of that Angels series. If you go back to April 24th, even with last night, they're 8th in the ERA, the 2.57 ERA. I mean, this is what they were last year. They were better than the individual as the whole. So I think they figured some things out.
What do Luinder Avila and Stephen Cruz bring to the bullpen?
Velocity that they didn't have. I mean, Stephen Cruz the last two nights has come out pumping 99, which we haven't seen that consistently from him until the last couple games. It's easy to forget. So last year, Stephen Cruz was solid for the Royals. I mean, you look at the numbers, and 3.74 ERA, 20% strikeout rate is too low for a guy with that kind of stuff. But the walk rate wasn't terrible. He got some swings and misses. He wasn't bad. And then he has that game against Minnesota where he gives up 3 home runs, and everybody thinks, oh, he sucks. And it sounds like he was tipping pitches, which is very fixable. It's terrible in the moment, but it's very fixable. So he's throwing 99. Luinder Avila's throwing 90, 98, 99 with that power stuff. Those two guys add such a different element to the bullpen than they had before. Now they look like relievers who other teams have. And I mean, I talked about this, that I still don't remember his name. The guy who came in the 9th inning of the Yankees series in the last game, I have no idea who he is. And he was throwing 99 with a nasty slider. Royals never had that guy. And now Stephen Cruz and Luinder Avila are that guy, which they're inconsistent. So I don't think you can count them as the late inning guys yet, but they add a very different element to me that gives opponents actually something to think about rather than John Schreiber at 92, Nick Mears at 94, 95. Now they got velocity to deal with, and everybody throws hard. So hitters hit it better, but still it's every mile per hour more. I don't remember the number, but knocks off however many points of OPS. And now the Royals have a couple of those guys who can get to that 99, 100 miles per hour.
Right now they're in the American League, especially, like, it's wide open because there's only a couple of teams that are any good. So with the Yankees and Rays up at the top, everybody else is mediocre with just a couple of clubs that are really bad. I think it's easy to look at it and be like, well, go make a deal. Well, who's trading? Like, who's bailing? Like the Red Sox are 600, but they've been playing better baseball of late. Are they going to bail? Not with that payroll. No, not, I mean, not in that market. They're not going to bail right now. how many teams would be like, we're done? I think maybe the Twins. Like, I don't even know that the White Sox might deal, but the White Sox are also like, well, we're in second.
Well, hang on a sec. Yeah, they're in a wild card spot as of the start of the day.
We're no threat to win a World Series, but like we're kind of instilling some confidence in our fans. But maybe the White Sox. I think the Twins, who are for sale, would move somebody.
The Giants have I've heard that they're open for business. They've already made a trade, actually. I
don't know if the Astros are of the mindset that it's over, but it is over. I don't know if they're there yet. The Angels should feel that way. I don't know what the Mets will do. The Mets are willing to. Their owner seems to be willing. Like when he signed Verlander and Scherzer and then said, "Okay, fine, I'll eat the money." Like they do seem to be willing to be like, "Okay, this didn't work. Pack it in. Get us. We're on to next year." So I think there could be something there for they could be in it. As far as like, okay, we're done. The Nationals, I assume, still feel like they're a year away, even though they've shown some life. Maybe the Marlins the same way. The Rockies are not good. The Giants are not good, and that should be settling in. They're bringing up young players now. But there really isn't that many teams to go try to get something with. So, like, although if I'm the Royals, I would be looking at getting somebody now.
Oh, yeah. I'd look at San Francisco. And I mean, there are a few guys that would make some sense. That it sounds like Robbie Ray is available. I would go get Robbie Ray. I would supplement that rotation because they've lost some depth. Noah Cameron has struggled.
So you're going for rotation. You're not going for bullpen.
Well, I'd look at their bullpen too. You want to talk about? I don't even know. I'm looking at their roster right now. I mean, would they trade Keaton Wynn, who has been really good this year? Maybe not. Low strikeouts. Maybe that's not the best answer. But I'd look at any upgrade. I don't care where it is. And look, if you're worried about Chris Bubich's innings, for example, maybe he ups the bullpen. Now it's another lefty that you throw in there with Lynch and Strom, but maybe that's how you do it. I probably wouldn't make that move right now, but down the road, maybe.
I don't know who the player is, but I definitely have the mindset that like you thought you were a playoff caliber team coming in. You're in the hunt for a playoff spot now. Never mind that the record's not ideal. Are you confident in what you've done? If you are, which I think you should be, then why would you wait? Why wouldn't you supplement now? I mean, to me, this is what the A's always were really good at. They would sell before anybody else sold, and they would buy before anybody else bought. And I think that's where the Royals need to be. I think they need to be thinking, okay, we're going to get out in front of this. And so I would be interested in watching the Royals make a move. Like right now,
on the other side of that,
you can maximize how many games you're getting out of what you get back.
Exactly. And the other side, I would be very quick to buy low if you believe in what Brian Sweeney and Mike McFerrin think on a guy. So like Brian Abreu, for example, from the Astros, and that might be a bad example because he's been so good that he just, has struggled to start this season. He's been a little better lately too. But if you say, look, we can get him back to the guy who had a 35% strikeout rate last year, give up what it takes. Because then you have a legitimate back of the bullpen arm to put with Urseg and Strom and Lynch, who have all been legitimate back of the bullpen arms. If you look at Colorado, and this is buying high, but Anthony Senzatella has been outstanding as a reliever. He was terrible as a starter. Go get him. Give up what it takes. It's not going to take a ton to go get it. What is he making? Like 10. I don't know what he's making this year. The average annual value is $10 million. They don't want to pay a reliever $10 million. But if you think you can win, do it. Great. That's great. Who cares what the cost is? And I say that it's not my money, but yes, I agree. Go out and make that move now. And then you're right. You get 4.5 months or 4 months if it takes a couple weeks to get done and not 2 months. And you might be able to actually make a difference and make a dent because you're so close right now.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, that's you assume success is something that I think is really important for any ball club is to assume that you're going to be there. All right, we'll assume success out of the cleanup spot in the lineup. It hasn't happened to this point. We'll talk about it after you hear from our friends at Greenlight.
Greenlight Dispensary, voted Kansas City's best dispensary and your go-to for quick, convenient service. With 4 locations across the Kansas City area, we're never far away. Our drive-thru and express windows make it easy to get in, get out, and get on with your day. Our award-winning service is powered by a team of experts dedicated to making your experience seamless and enjoyable. It's no wonder we've been voted the best. Convenient locations, fast service, knowledgeable staff. That's the Greenlight difference. Visit us today.
Gann Asphalt and Concrete is looking to grow their team. If you have heavy construction foreman experience with heavy equipment, asphalt or concrete labor, or just want to learn a new trade, contact Gann Asphalt and Concrete to join their team today. Top of the market pay, company provided insurance, and paid time off and holiday pay are just a few of the great reasons to join Gann's expanding team. Learn more about this great opportunity with Gann at GannAsphalt.com/careers. That's GannAsphalt.com/careers. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lots. All right, let's talk a little bit about Salvador Perez and batting cleanup. The worst spot in the Royals lineup, of which he's batted cleanup in 38 games, and it's been the worst spot in the lineup. We've seen Vinny Pasquantino start to come around. We have not seen Salvador Perez come around. You were at the ballpark last night. He was not in there in the cleanup spot, and there is a problem. Like, you can be like, drop him, get him out of there. If not him, then who? Who is your cleanup hitter? But as of right now, we're now a quarter of the way into the season, basically, and he has not come around. So what are we thinking?
Well, my concern with Salvy, last year he struggled to start the season, right? We knew that. But you looked at the underlying numbers. The bat speed was fine. He was hitting the ball hard. There was reason to believe it was going to come around. Would it? We didn't know. It did, generally. But we didn't know. This year, the underlying numbers are really bad. His bat speed is down from 72.9 miles per hour to 71.3 miles per hour. It's not what you want. His fast swing percentage, which is a swing that reaches a speed of 75 miles per hour. So it's a percentage of all your swings that get to that speed, is 14.6%. Last year, it was 30.5%. What is the first thing that goes as you age? Bat speed.
Yeah.
And at some point, he was going to age. And I said before the season, I'm done predicting it. Well, I should have predicted it one more time. But I made a mistake. All right. I screwed up. But he's just not hitting it as hard. His hard hit rate is down to 41%. That is the lowest of his career since 2017, but he made some changes with his swing to hit the ball harder and became a different hitter in the back half of his career. We've seen it with the power. His average exit velocity is down to 88 miles per hour. That's the lowest of his career outside of 2015. They only track back to 2015, so there might be some lower numbers before, but his barrel rate is 8.5%. It's only been that low two other times, really. It was 8.7% in 23. But if you remember that year, that was the year he got hit in the thumb. Remember in that Red series, he got hit in the thumb. Everybody thought he was going to be out for a while. It was 2 days. And then he came back and was terrible the rest of the year. The barrel rate before that was like 12%, which is where he's been other than this year. Everything is pointing to I mean, the expected numbers, 205 expected average, 357 expected slug. It's not there's no sign that it's going to be better. And it's a really big concern, especially because they gave him 2 years this winter and not just one. So I think, the if not him, then who is a fair question. But there are very few players on this roster who would be worse in that spot than him.
I'm not going to complain. I mean, if Salvador Perez is like, hey, he's our guy, and because it's Salvy, we're doing things that we wouldn't ordinarily do. Okay. I'm fine with that. But this again comes back to, are you a math team or not? Right? Yeah. Because the math said that you should be getting out from under this as well. Right. And that's where I think, at some point you have to decide, are you going to run your operation based upon what the math says you should be? And I think there's some decisions that they are adhering to and others that they aren't. And I think that's where, like, you can't pick and choose, right? The math is about, like, the teams that have had success with that. It's because they say, okay, this is what the data tells us and we're going to follow it. And, so to put the extra year on Salvador Perez,
Now, to be fair, let me back up, because as I'm thinking about this, he did defer money, and he had an option for $13 million, which is what he's going to be making in real money the next 2 years, is $13 million total, because he deferred money to make it $6.5 million per year. So maybe it was the second year that was done for salary math. That's possible. That just popped in my head as you were talking. So, but I agree. And I also don't care. I don't mind when franchises do things for their stars. It doesn't bother me.
Okay.
Contract wise, playing time wise, it does bother me. The other thing that I wonder about a little bit is, how bad is this hip injury? Is that the problem? Is it simply that his hip hurts, which is an age thing, but also can get better if they just freaking sit him or put him on the IL for 2 weeks? Just let him heal up. And I don't know. My question, and we don't know that, we won't know this until tomorrow, Tuesday, if you're listening late. Will he hit fourth in game 1 against the White Sox? Because was his day off with Isaac Collins hitting fourth a soft launch of him not hitting fourth moving forward? Will he hit sixth in the lineup? And I'm not going to predict it, because that's his spot in the lineup, whether it should be or not, and it shouldn't be right now. But I'm wondering a little bit on that front.
Yeah. Who is the cleanup hitter if it's not Salvador Perez?
Well, so the issue that they run into is, do you want to move Caglione up? He hasn't shown the power. He's been fine. He's been a big league hitter, but he has not been an impact hitter this season, generally. You want to move Carter Jensen up? Maybe, but he's been terrible for 2.5 weeks now. I don't know that he's the answer. Do you put Michael Massey there? Maybe in Chicago.
By the way, you've just nominated 3 left-handed bats.
I have.
One is a right-handed bat.
Well, that's exactly right. But who's that right-handed bat? Because then the next hitter, Kyle Isbell, is hitting ninth, lefty. Isaac Collins is the only one who is not a pure left-handed bat. He would hit left-handed mostly because he's a switch hitter, but he makes some sense in the way that Michael Garcia made sense last year, right? Like, when they put Garcia in that fourth spot between Vinny and Salvy, it didn't make sense on paper because he's not a power bat, but it did because he got on base. He separated the plotters a little bit. So Collins does make some sense there, I think. But he doesn't have as much power as Garcia does even. So are you going to get extra base hits from him? Probably not enough. That's the problem. And the real answer is, you probably want to put Collins at the top and Garcia fourth, but do you want to drop Garcia from the leadoff spot? I don't know that answer.
Yeah. We'll see what they end up doing here. I mean, I think they're going to keep pressing on with Salvador Perez for a little bit, because that's their most obvious best answer.
He's their guy.
If he can turn the corner and start hitting. So I think they continue to remain patient with him, because it doesn't look like there's a great answer otherwise, but we'll see what they do. All right. Tell me, Bobby Witt Jr., MVP form inside the Parker on Saturday, starting to round into shape. What are we going to see those MVP numbers this year?
It's been so quiet, but if you go back, it's 23 games now. 23 games going back to, I believe, which was it? It was one of the games in the White Sox series, or maybe it was the one of the games in the Tigers series. I can't remember, but either way, in his last 23 games, he is hitting I want to find the number exactly. I want to say this correctly and not even be off a little bit. 337, 390, 600, 8 doubles, 1 triple, 5 homers. So the 162 game pace there is 56 doubles, 7 triples, and 35 homers, which looks an awful lot like 2024. And the overall numbers aren't quite there yet, which, those matter. But Bobby Witt's overall numbers weren't quite there in 2024 either until he went on the crazy run in the second half. And this looks like the guy that he was. Last season was a quote unquote down year for him, which was a great year for most players. But it was, he would argue that he leads baseball in wins above replacement on Fangraphs right now. He's ahead of Aaron Judge. He's ahead of Shohei Ohtani. He's ahead of Matt Olson. Like, he's ahead of, the Astros, Yordan Alvarez.
Yeah.
He's ahead of all those guys. He might right now be having too good of an all-around season, and it's a sum of everything being really, really good rather than being elite at something other than defense to get the MVP votes. But he is, by wins above replacement, the best player in baseball so far this season. And for the last 23 games, the offensive numbers have been like absurd. So maybe I think we might be seeing him get back to that, which it's funny how quiet that's been though too. Like you don't realize it until you look at it and you're like, oh, he really has been incredible for the last 4 weeks, basically.
Yeah. It is, if he is going to ratchet up the power just a little bit more, which is what he did in that MVP runner-up season, then I think that's, the foundation for what you build around as far as why is this team a playoff team? That guy right there. And when he goes and, puts an inside the park home run out there, you're just like, and weren't we all thinking it the moment the ball went? The only guy not thinking it was the right fielder.
Yeah, well, to be fair, he was also hurt apparently. So maybe that was going through his head that God, my shoulder is falling out of its socket. But still, yes, he was the only guy who didn't seem to realize that Bobby Witt Jr. was running.
Yeah, and was going for it. And are you a fan of the fact that he went ahead and knocked the helmet off coming around third so that the locks could flow?
If you've got them, I don't have them. I would do it. If I could do it, I would be walking down the street and just throwing my hat off everywhere if I could do it. But so yes, absolutely do it. Do it while you got it, because those locks are no guarantee, man. They might go away.
I thought that was a nice move to catch the hat.
I loved it.
As he's coming around, tremendous player. So much fun to watch, and just, a threat every time he steps up there. You stop and watch his at bats. He's that kind of player. All right. Listen, a 4-3 homestand, is it ever, I don't want to say, has it ever felt worse? Well, probably, but it is. Yet they found a way to play good baseball and put up good numbers, and then still have us like 2-0, against the Guardians. You split 4. 2-0 against the Tigers. Yeah, you win the series 2-1, which gives us a 4-3, which is what we were looking for out of the series. That's what we wanted. But man, they've been on the brink of like thinking 5-2 all along. Just like, have you ever had a homestand that was a good homestand? Feel like less?
It feels bad. I think I wrote on Friday that a split never hurt so much.
Yeah.
Because it just, you felt like there was more. It's like when you load the bases with nobody out and you score 3 runs. You're like, well, we scored all 3 we were supposed to score, but should that have been a 7-run inning? like, should we have gotten more? And the answer is probably yes. It's baseball. So like, you expect perfection in a game where perfection is nearly impossible, but you're right. You get greedy. And it's so funny too. Sequencing is interesting, because if they had lost the first 2 games of the Guardian series and lost the first game of the Tigers series, you're like, wow, that's a great homestand. But because it was the reverse, you're like, okay.
Yeah.
But hard to argue with it.
They turn around now and have 3 with the White Sox and 3 with the Cardinals. They go on the road for 6 games. Expectations for the next 6? Are we asking for 4-2 on a road trip, or are we just satisfied with 3-3?
I would say 3-3 with the hope of 4-2, because these 2 teams, I still don't buy the White Sox, but they're clearly better. And it's hard to win 2 road series. Now they went 4-2 on the last road trip without winning 2. They won 1 and they lost 1 and they swept 1. So I guess that's possible. And I think the Mariners are a better team than either the White Sox or the Cardinals on paper, but they haven't been better in reality. And so, and it's a Mariners team the White Sox just won 2 or 3 from also. So I think that, yes, 3-3 is what you hope for, you expect, and then 4-2 is what you hope for. But I mean, I said it before the Guardian series. I switched from that 7-6 13 game stretch where they went 8-5, by the way, to say, okay, this is the start of actually a 16 game stretch that I want to see 10-6. So now they got to go 6-3, and that includes 3 against Boston. You can't go 6-3 unless you win at least 3 games on this road trip, because there's only 3 games left afterwards. So I want to see them back at 500 or better when that weekend comes around, when it's the Mariners and Yankees, or Yankees and I can't remember which order it is, but I would like to see them 10-6 in this stretch. And right now they're 4-3. So yeah, they need at least 3-3 on this road trip.
Yeah. I like their chances. I do too. I think they're playing pretty good baseball. I think 3-3, I'm with you. I think 3-3 is most likely, but I think there's an outside shot at 4-2. And this is, kind of playing into what I talked about earlier, that as you looked at it, when they got 9 under, even when they started playing better baseball, it was like, okay, we're going to be right back at 500. Like May 20th.
It takes some time.
Some time. And May 20th was where I was kind of targeting them to get back to that point. But I do think the Cardinals are playing good baseball. The Red Sox are playing better. But it was the combination of the White Sox and Red Sox, and hopefully holding your own. If you can take 2 out of 3 from the Cardinals, great. Great.
Well, and I will say, you look ahead to that series, and probable pitchers can change, obviously, this is far out. But Dustin May, Kyle Leahy, and Andre Palante, those are guys the Royals should hit, and have been the type of pitcher the Royals have hit this year. So that's helpful, at least. By the way, also Andre Palante, really fast. The Royals have now faced 2 pitchers with a double L that you would think should be the "y" sound, and they're both L sounds. It bothers me quite a bit as somebody who has a Duolingo streak in Spanish. Can we please use your name in the Spanish way? Because it's really hard to look at that and not say Payante and Cantillo, but it's Palante and Cantillo. I had to say that because it drives me nuts.
It's important that we get those things off your chest, David. We want a relaxed, happy, fresh David Lesky.
This is a therapy session for me, actually, where I get really mad at the way people pronounce their names.
All right, 6 games. What do they do?
I think 3-3. I think that's where they end up. I think they win 1 and lose 1. I don't think they get swept or sweep.
No, I think we're we've just talked about Stephen Kolek. They're down on that. They're still trying to work some pieces in the bullpen. I'd love to sit here and say 4-2, but I'll say 3-3, and then coming back home to try to do some business there. Like that's
they have to beat the Red Sox when they come home. The Red Sox, they have played better, but also their playing better was partially a sweep of the Tigers, who had just gotten the Scooble news, which killed them. I mean, that they looked dead. Even last night when they won, they didn't look good doing it. That team is in trouble. The Red Sox are very beatable, so they need to take care of business there. We'll talk before that, though.
Yeah, for sure. Listen, you can always support the Kaufman Corner podcast by supporting our great sponsors like Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Did you know that they're hiring? For more than 30 years, Gann has been your go-to for solving any parking lot problems you have. And right now they're hiring paving foremen, operators, laborers. If you're looking for a trusted company who offers top-of-the-market pay, company-provided insurance, paid time off, and many more benefits, go to GannAsphalt.com/careers to find out more about Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Our friends at Italian Delight, first restaurant to bring New York-style pizza to Kansas City almost 50 years ago. How about lunch? They've got lunches starting at under $10, just a few miles east of the Speedway on State Avenue, 8145 State Ave, online at ItalianDelightKS.com, and our friends at Greenlight Dispensary, 15 locations in Missouri. More on the way. Greenlight, your go-to for all your cannabis needs. Tell them you heard about it right here on the Kaufman Corner podcast. For David Lesky, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Kaufman Corner.